your last production, for no fault of yours, if I may say so. There was a terrorist attack, and people decided that no Pakistani actors should act in Hindi films, and Karan's film was on the line. Do you want to talk about?
Well, so much has been said, and so much happened during that time, and I think now it's in the past, but it's unfortunately, it has ramifications in the future. It was a dark time for me. I had to put out a video, which I'm deeply disturbed about even today. I was disturbed when I was shooting it. Many people called it a hostage video online, and it did look like I had an invisible gun on my head. All kinds of information was fed to me, and then I was advised very strongly by everyone to put out a video saying that, you know, like, I'm Indian, I love my country, I'm patriotic. And I just felt that the fact that I had to do that, the fact that I had to put myself in that position of vulnerability, it's not something I'm proud of. It's not something that I think and not cringe. I feel exceptionally apologetic that I had to do that. It works against my own ethos as a human being. And it was something that was deeply disturbing. There's nothing else to say. I mean, the more and more I speak about it, the worse I feel. It was terrible.
Karan, did you get makeup done while making that video?
No, I wanted to look sad.
I mean, you also had to apologize not very long ago.
Yeah.
You had to, or you wanted to?
Yeah, I'm still in my 20s. I would like to be alive for a bit. So I will apologize. I will do whatever it is. I don't like to. Like I said, nobody wants to. But when the leader of a political party is on camera saying, if we see Tanmay Bhat and we will beat him up, if we see him in a city that I grew up in, you will do whatever it takes to get out of it. But I will continue to offend. We will continue to do what we have to. And I will continue to apologize if I get the license to keep doing it again and again. But fact is that you have to. You have to, yeah. When I say I will continue to offend, I mean I will continue to do what I have to, and people will continue to have their feelings hurt. As long as we will keep having panel discussions about it, people will realize that this is a topic that will get them screen time. This is a topic that will get them airtime. I remember after the roast, I was intrigued by what happened because I had people outside my office and they call and, did you know they call and tell you they come in to protest? And they're extremely apologetic, sir, humko kal aana hai, sir, kal media wale aa rahe hain. Do you know what political parties do? They do stuff like, they will engage with you not directly. They will find someone far enough from the party who works for the party. So if you ever say, hey, the party is trying to speak to me, they will have plausible deniability, which means someone who's acting on behalf of the party without an official status is the one who will be trying to negotiate.
So when you have a release coming up, the next 48 hours matter, or the next 1 week. So it's literally holding you
It's actually
at your most vulnerable point.
It's happened to me now on 3 different occasions. For some reason, I seem to be this controversies filmmaker. It happened to be during Wake Up Sid, where there was like Ranbir said the word Bombay, and you know it was a mistake because the city is Mumbai, and it was something that we overlooked, and we had to kind of then go out there, and that was the first time that it happened. Then on My Name is Khan, where my film actually did not release in the state of Maharashtra on its opening weekend, and then again on Ae Dil Hai Mushkil, where we fought it. The sad thing and the travesty of it is that during the release of My Name is Khan, we actually lost that weekend, those weekend footfalls, or the first 4 days, which was turbulent. Now, the loss was faced by the film, and sometimes that loss is very difficult to cover up. And it is something that only we understand. And it's not just the commercial reason of it. You feel sad that an audience didn't get to see your film because the play is on fear. Like the exhibitors don't play your film. It's not that there's a court ruling or there's the police is not supporting you. The cops and the authorities have always supported us. There's nothing legal to say that, you know, there's a problem. It's you play on the fear psychosis.
Just go back to that moment. In an ideal world, what would happen when a threat like this comes?
In an ideal world, nobody would bow down to that pressure. No exhibitor would stand tall with that controversy and support the filmmaker and say, we will take all chances. The cops are there with you. The film fraternity will stand tall with the exhibitors. But it doesn't happen. And then sometimes there's over-reportage of the media. When the media gives this so much importance, unfortunately, while I'm a big supporter of what the media can do in circumstances like this, sometimes there is an anti-effect as well. When they continue to report it and make it front-page news, that's exactly what certain people want. They want that kind of media presence, and it works against you. There are so many films that I have not made, so many scripts that I haven't greenlit, only because I know that when it's out there and all everything is done, all that work and effort was made. I mean, it's going to, like, I remember I felt very sad that I was trying very hard to make Amish Tripathi's book Immortals of Miluha, which was the Shiva trilogy. And eventually one of the big reasons why, because it was a huge canvas film and it's a tremendous book. And I was really keen to put it out there on celluloid. But one of the big reasons was that eventually, no matter what we do, however close we are to the projection in the book, it's going to meet with some kind of large kinds of extreme responses. And that was one of the films that I didn't end up making because of that very reason. And there are, every day, there are things we get so scared of in lyrics of songs now. I mean, I have an entire legal system that is now works for Dharma Productions that only watches, and they literally have their ear like this, like more than the censor board. And finally what happens is, like, how many cases, we have lawyers fighting cases on each and every film of ours, and I'm not lying to you. There are little cases that have come up in some part of this country where I have my own team flying in and out, just because somebody decides to file a case on something random.
And the hope always is that Karan Johar will come to my constituency, or Karan Johar will come to the court, or Karan Johar will come to this police station to deal with it. He's not going to. He's not going to get makeup done to go to a police station.
I mean, I'm fine. Some things I will avoid. Those are the small, tiny, really things that are so ridiculous. But then the larger things, like when you had a film like Kapoor and Sons, and it was touching upon sexuality, and there was a lead protagonist in the film who was gay, and it was about his coming out to his family. It was an emotional narrative. My entire team in the office was absolutely like, they had their knickers in a twist, pun not intended, only because, like, it was like, why do you want to make this film? And, like, do you think it'll fly? And I was like, it's done and dealt with emotionally, and I totally would. When I had Bombay Talkies, when I was making my short in Bombay Talkies, where Randeep Hooda had to kiss Saqib Salim, and everybody was so worried for me, and like everybody had all guns blazing, ready for attack, because two men were kissing on screen for the first time. But I mean, when I can hold my ground, I will. And on certain issues that I feel very strongly about, of course, I will make sure that I fight it out. But sometimes when it's the larger film and the bigger film release, things are beyond your control at that time.
You know, the biggest outcome of this sort of stuff is self-censorship. Especially as a comedian, it is the worst thing that has happened to us. Because now when we're in office, we wrote a sketch about the whole statue thing that's happening in Maharashtra right now. And we shelved it because the trouble doesn't seem worth it. And as a comic, we've grown up watching Hicks and Kalin and all of these guys. And then we start looking at the day there is a joke that has to be shelved is the saddest day in office. In fact, there's a running joke in the office right now. We're doing a show right now, which is a news comedy show. The joke is, if you hear a room full of laughter, it's the sound of a joke that's never going to make it to the show. Yeah. And that is sadly the truth of the situation. Is if you find something really funny, this joke is never going to make it, I guess.
And sometimes, I want to tell you, people get offended within the industry. Like there was a whole outrage where they thought I disrespected the legend Mohammed Rafi. And I had somebody like a prolific singer like Sonu Nigam who didn't understand what I was trying to do in that film. And he didn't even look at the film or see the film, that the aspiration of my protagonist was to be a Mohammed Rafi. And there was just a line that Anushka Sharma said that was inbuilt into the way her character speaks. And suddenly he got offended. Mohammed Rafi's son got offended, who no one had heard of till this point.
That's the worst.
And I was like, he's offended. Then suddenly Govinda is offended because I haven't called him to my talk show. I mean, like, you know, I'm supposed to be accountable to call or not call him. Then he calls me Khatarnak because I am not called him to my talk show. I mean, this is what happens.
The worst is when artists are offended and artists don't defend other artists. Like when the roast had happened, we had comedians who are one of India's biggest comedians go on news channels and say कि उनको ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए था, उनको वो नहीं करना चाहिए था, उनको I'm like, you've been peddling sexist jokes on national TV for the last 3 decades. You are the reason why people look at your wife. And like the biggest show on Indian television right now, the biggest joke on that is, your wife is ugly, I would rather date this actress who has come to promote a show. That is far more damaging than a bunch of jokes 4 comedians make about movie stars that are on stage. And I don't understand how can artists themselves get offended, saying, this is not of my taste and I would have never done this.
You've been through this 3 times, you said. So just, you know, I'm professionally a historian, so I like dates. When do you think it got really bad? I mean, can you put a date on it, or do your senior colleagues in your industry tell you कि यार ये हमेशा ऐसा ही था?
No, it
Because
was.
it does seem to be recent, right?
It seems very recent, Mukul. I mean, I know because I'm from a film family, and I think my father's been making movies and producing films ever since I can remember. And I remember the times then, and I remember our content was much braver. There was so much more said in cinema. There were so many films. If you go down to the golden era of cinema, down just back it to 40s and 50s, we were far more progressive in our content. Things have got worse, if you ask me, in the last 7 to 8 years. And I think it's just gone from bad to worse. Today, things are just much, and I think a lot of it is to do with social media. A lot to do with I think a lot to do is immediate reportage. Like, I mean, like, if it happens, somebody breaks the story online and everybody else picks it up, because there's what we call the constant ripple effect of media. And everybody wants to just fill in their web pages with content. And that's what happens. In the age of the newspaper, there was an entire 24 hours. It took from one day to the other. It's no longer, it's 24 seconds. And that 24 seconds is what has destroyed the sensibility, the fabric, and the ethos of our country in so many ways. It's really tragic. I mean, it's tragic what's happening. So it's like there were films made that were so progressive. There were filmmakers in the age of Bimal Roy and vintage Raj Kapoor and Guru Dutt, and even like people who made social commentary in films. There was also political stands taken in so many films of the 70s and 80s. The angst of the, during emergency where, there was a rise of Bachchan. There was something said even in the most mainstream work. Today, there is nothing you can say. There's no film you can make.
Is there a film fraternity? I mean, you use the term. It doesn't seem to be
I'm
as
hopeful.
an outsider. So I'm just trying to understand, is there solidarity by and large, or is it an aberration when people don't stand up for you? Or is it every man for himself?
I mean, I have to say that there are multiple skews to that question, Mukul. I mean, we have a very strong producers guild. We're about 14 or 15 very strong forces who come together, stand by each other. We have some of the movie stars that are very deeply part of that guild as well. But if you're asking me if there's complete, intense, and immense solidarity, no. The answer to that is no. We're an industry who should be a fraternity that must be a community. And unfortunately, we are neither. We are just working for ourselves most of the time. And yes, we get some individual support through friendships or relationships of your own.
I feel like if Twitter shut down, half the problems would get solved.
Are you on Twitter?
Huh?
Are you on Twitter?
Yeah, I am on Twitter. Why do you think? Why do you think I get into trouble?
Compared to Donald Trump, you're still saying nothing. Like, let me tell you, you have a loose cannon in one of the most powerful countries of the world, waking up and every day I feel like this is a fake account. This does not exist. No,
it has the blue tick.
One day there will be an announcement. Hugest international joke of the century. He is not president. Ha ha, fooled you. Like, I
Don't know if troll or president. Never thought I'd say that.
Like every day. So you're doing fine. As long as you're following at real Donald Trump, you're never going to match up, Tanmay.
It's a question is to Mr. Karan Johar. Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, any film fraternity sufferers, entire industry comes together on streets and do some silent protest and meet the concerned chief minister or governor. Whether the solution gets or not, there will be a number, physical number. Why those kind of model is not adopted in Bombay Film Fraternity?
Sir, if I had the answer to that question, I wouldn't be sitting on this panel. I don't know why. Sometimes it's a very, what you're saying is completely true, and we know of it in our industry. We know how the southern film industry stands tall on so many occasions, on so many issues, be it on taxation, on piracy, on internal issues that trouble the industry. In our case, we are possibly within a small group, we are still so fragmented, and to bring everyone together, and I'm sure everyone's intent is to, I just think it's about intent. I think everybody just has to feel equally passionate about a cause, and if everybody has to rally that cause very strongly.
I feel like if we had a filmfare protest, everyone would come together. Like if we call it an award show,
No.
or if you had sponsored, like a
you must
sponsored protest.
understand
Like if Manik Chand present protest, then maybe people will come.
The only problem with that, Tanmay, is that you need to be paid then to protest. I mean,
Which
because,
seems
you know, if there was a song and
That's
dance
okay.
in that protest, it might have added up. But no, I don't mean to demean anyone who performs. I'm a big part of those award shows. I get lots of money to stand there and host them. So I don't want to say anything about award shows. I endorse them. More power, more TRPs, more ratings. God bless you all. But I just want to say, when it comes to what you said, sir, you're very right. Your industry, more power to you. May the force be with them always. I wish we could imbibe that force and energy, and we would be the people that your industry represents.
We're starting off by copying the movies, okay? Eventually, we will copy the attitude also. Eventually, in like a few decades, we will get there. Not copying. In some case, we got the rights as well. Sorry.
Not that that has helped.
What do you think about the censor board in India? I mean, we have recently seen it with
Next
Urta
question,
Punjab.
please.
We've recently seen the controversy with Urta Punjab.
Right.
It was suggested as much as 89 cuts.
Right.
And when it was challenged in the court, they just suggested one cut as for the movie. And personally, I felt there was no problem with the movie. It was suggested so many cuts.
My issue is, I wish we were a board of certification and not censorship. That's all I've been saying. Just certify us. I've had absolutely no problems with the board, and we've had a kind of a smooth relationship with them over the past many films that have released. And there have been bumps on that highway, but there you have bumps everywhere. And, you know, sometimes you have to like kind of make sure that you circumvent those obstacles. But I really beseech the powers to be that they make it a board of certification and not censorship.
Why do people offend only the creative field, the movie makers? Right from Karina's Child's Name till your movie, Eid Mushkil and others.
What else will get front page coverage?
No, that's all. That's where I come from. I wanted to know: are you people so easy to be trapped while all your hard work is there for that movie to be made, or a lady like Karina who's come up all the way, and just because she named her child what she wanted, she's in the front page, and so why are people trapping you again and again? Why don't you put an end to all this?
How can we? Because
Please do
because
it.
movie stars or people from the film fraternity and industry just garner those eyeballs. They garner those eyeballs. I mean, that's what happens, is that we make news, fortunately and
So
unfortunately.
you're welcoming such things, and you
We
want
are
to
not
be-
welcoming it
Yeah.
at all. It's not helping when people say, I don't welcome. When people said, oh, good luck, you've got a controversy, your film will open well. I'm like, no, it's ridiculous to think there might be people who will stay away. I don't think Karina, or who wanted this kind of outrage, it was her newborn child. You want positivity and love when that happens, when you bring a newborn child into your life and family. You don't want people to object on a name. I mean, I don't want to go back to Shakespeare who said what's in a name, because it's not about that. It's about their prerogative about naming their child. It's their prerogative what they name their child. How dare anyone else have an opinion? But they do. They do have an opinion, and then you will put it on the front page of your newspaper. It will be reported everywhere. News channels will go on and on putting tickers till kingdom come. And then that's what will happen. You will enforce more, you will empower those people who will spread that kind of news, and because they know that they will make that front page coverage. When you ban my film or you put like a dharna outside my office, it's going to get front page coverage. I'm not deluded. We are really a tiny spot in terms of the income and the wealth that our industry generates and what we are capable of. We are nothing. It's like there's a song in Hindi cinema, Naam Bada Darshan Chota. That's exactly what we are. We have a very bada naam and we have a very small darshan in terms of in the larger scheme of things. But that doesn't matter because we still make the maximum noise.
When you make certain themes taboo, then ultimately a vocabulary emerges that still addresses them, but through different words or different signifiers. So do you see something like that emerging in India, where we can still address these themes, but through circumventing it, using other words in a way that can still insulate us from violence or the courts?
Subtlety is not our strength. And certainly not when it comes to mainstream cinema. Nuance and subtlety get so easily drowned, it just goes unnoticed.
Considering that there have been hurdles since the 6-7 years, how will you take this forward in bringing out powerful movies as you wanted to come out, right? And in case you think that it's with the people that has to change for the movies to come out in that way, can the movies in itself be a change agent in this?
what I feel is that there is already the process has begun. There are many, many young filmmakers, and I think interesting films that are being made that are actually making very strong commentary. Wherever there is a very strong political stand, no one is going to do it because everyone's afraid. I mean, no one is really telling. We have a land and a mind. We have a minefield of like the most interesting autobiographies, true stories, biopics waiting to exhale in cinema. And no one's telling those stories. Unfortunately, you have people from the West telling some of our stories because we are so worried about releasing them. So when you're trying to ask me as a studio and a production house, would I be able to make a film that makes a very strong political comment? I will not want to. I don't want to, and that's the truth. And I'm not lying about it. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm afraid to because I know what the ramifications will be. If others are doing it, they're doing it on a tiny basis or a smaller basis, which don't get garner those kind of footfalls and eyeballs, and that's why it doesn't go into that. So everyone's now making very, very inspirational biopics of people who are not offending anyone. Either they're sports personalities they're making films on, or like films like Nirja, or they're making films like are like slightly off the mainstream, like say Piku was, or Pink is, or Kapoor and Sons was. I mean, nobody's really making hard-hitting political commentary films that actually make a statement because they will not release those films.
ADHM was a political message, right? Ek tarfa pyar is, you know, when you can't form a coalition government and the alliances. It's about...
Yeah. It is Ek Tarfa Pyar.